Welcome to the Fearful Fright series, where we will be reading with our favorite green ghoul, Grimmer. Now sit back and enjoy this twisted tale. Today our story is called Snodgrass Hill. Snodgrass Hill. October 2, 1891. If this diary is ever found, let it be known that I, Elias Mercer of the 21st Ohio Infantry, have written these pages with a trembling hand and a soul that has never truly left that hill in Georgia. Men speak proudly of the Battle of Chickamauga. They call it glorious, strategic, historic. They do not speak of what walked through the smoke on Snodgrass Hill. And God help me, I still see him. September 20, 1863. The morning began with fog hanging low over the trees like ghost breath. Thick woods surrounded us near Snodgrass Hill, the kind of woods where sunlight struggled to touch the ground. The air smelled of damp leaves, sweat, and black powder. Men coughed from the smoke before the fighting even began. General George Thomas had rallied us there after the Union lines broke apart earlier in the day. The Confederates kept coming in waves through the forest, screaming like demons as musket fire cracked between the trees. I was 20 years old. Too young to know how loud a dying man could scream. Our regiment dug shallow positions along the ridge beside broken fences and rocks. Cannon crews dragged artillery into place while officers shouted themselves hoarse. Everywhere I looked, men bled. Private Nathaniel Reed sat beside me loading cartridges with shaking fingers. "You reckon we'll hold?" he asked. I lied. "Course we will." The truth was written all around us. Bodies lay twisted in the grass already. Some still moved. One man wandered without his jaw, making wet choking sounds while clutching at the air. The battle had been raging for 2 days, and Snodgrass Hill had become the last wall keeping the Confederate army from destroying us entirely. By noon, the woods exploded. Rebel soldiers surged uphill screaming the rebel yell. It echoed through the trees like animals shrieking in hell itself. Fire. Our line erupted. Rifles bucked against shoulders. Smoke swallowed everything. Cannon blasts shook dirt from the trees overhead. Men vanished in clouds of red mist. I saw Nathaniel fire 3 times before a Confederate bullet ripped through his neck. Blood sprayed across my face warm as bathwater. He collapsed beside me gurgling, hands clawing at the hole in his throat. I tried not to look at him. I kept firing. Load. Aim. Fire. Again. 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 Hours passed like nightmares stitched together. The dead piled so thick along the slope that charging men stumbled over corpses before reaching our line. Trees splintered from cannon fire. Limbs hung from branches. Horses screamed after their guts spilled into the mud. Near evening, the sun turned orange behind the smoke. That was when I first saw him. At first I believed it was only the haze. A figure stood deep among the trees below the hill. Tall. Motionless. Green. Not merely wearing green. Green skin. Green face. Green hands hanging unnaturally long at his sides. He stood untouched while bullets tore branches around him. I rubbed my eyes. Then he was gone. That night, survivors gathered behind the ridge while medics worked by lantern light. The wounded cried everywhere around us. Some begged for mothers. Some begged for death. A Confederate prisoner sat tied to a tree nearby. Older fellow with gray whiskers and a missing ear. He kept staring into the woods. Finally he whispered, "Y'all seen him too?" Nobody answered. The prisoner swallowed hard. The green man. A few soldiers laughed nervously. "Shut your damn mouth," Sergeant Wilkes snapped. But the prisoner kept talking. "My granddaddy warned me about these woods. Said before the war, Cherokee folk wouldn't camp here after dark. Said something walked the hills." He lowered his voice. "Said it comes when too many men die together. The lantern flame flickered. Even the insects had gone silent. "What is it?" I asked before I could stop myself. The prisoner looked at me with terrified eyes. "It ain't a what?" That night I could not sleep. The wounded moaned endlessly around us. Somewhere in the darkness a horse shrieked in agony until someone finally shot it. Then came another sound. Scratching. Slow. Deliberate. Like fingernails against bark. I rose and followed the noise into the trees with my rifle clutched tight. The moon barely reached through the branches. The scratching stopped. Then I saw him again. Standing between the trees. The Green Man. He was impossibly tall now, at least 7 feet, with skin the color of wet moss. His face looked almost human except for the eyes. No whites. Only black pits. His body seemed stitched together from vines, bark, and flesh. I couldn't move. He tilted his head at me. Then I noticed the bodies around him. Dead soldiers. Union and Confederate alike. All standing upright. Not alive. Not moving. Just standing. Like puppets. Their empty eyes stared forward while blood dripped from torn uniforms. My legs nearly gave out. The Green Man raised one long finger toward the hill. Then every corpse turned their heads toward me at once. I ran. Branches whipped my face bloody as I crashed back toward camp. When I returned, Sergeant Wilkes grabbed me hard. "Where the hell were you?" I couldn't answer. Because behind him, Nathaniel Reed was standing among the wounded. Nathaniel, who had died hours earlier. His throat still hung open. His eyes stared straight at me. Then he slowly smiled. The next morning battle resumed. The Confederates attacked again and again. General Longstreet's men charged uphill through cannon fire while our forces held desperately beside Snodgrass House. Smoke covered everything so thick it felt like drowning. Yet something had changed. Men on both sides kept disappearing into the woods. Not killed. Gone. A drummer boy vanished beside me between one heartbeat and the next. One moment he ran carrying water. The next there was only blood in the grass. Then came the screams. Not battle screams. Something worse. Whole groups of soldiers began shrieking from deep within the forest. The sound echoed for minutes. Then silence. Officers tried restoring order, but panic spread quickly. Men whispered of devils in the woods. Around sunset, both armies slowed their fighting without even meaning to. Because everyone saw him. The Green Man walked openly now across the battlefield. Bullets struck him. They passed straight through. Artillery shells exploded nearby. He never flinched. The entire battlefield fell eerily quiet except for distant fires crackling through the woods. Thousands of soldiers stared. Union. Confederate. All frozen together. The Green Man stood atop Snodgrass Hill where bodies covered the ground like fallen leaves. Then he spoke. Not loudly. But every man heard him. "This hill remembers." The earth trembled. Dead soldiers began rising everywhere. Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Blue uniforms. Gray uniforms. Bodies torn apart by cannon fire staggered upright together. Some missing faces. Some dragging entrails through the mud. The wounded screamed in terror. Men dropped rifles and fled. But the dead kept rising. Nathaniel walked among them. So did boys no older than 16. So did officers with half their heads missing. The Green Man lifted both arms slowly. And every corpse turned toward the living. Then they charged. Chaos swallowed Snodgrass Hill. Men fired wildly at their own dead comrades. Cannon crews abandoned guns. Horses bolted screaming into the woods. I saw a Confederate soldier tackled by 3 corpses missing their lower jaws. He disappeared beneath them shrieking. Another dead Union man climbed onto a cannon and beat an artillery officer to death with his own severed arm. The smell. God. The smell of opened graves and burned flesh flooded the air. I ran with dozens of others toward the Snodgrass cabin. Inside, terrified soldiers barricaded the doors while gunfire and screaming echoed outside. Private Cole was crying uncontrollably. "We're in hell," he whispered over and over. Then scratching came from the roof. Slow. Patient. Everyone froze. Scratch. 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 Dust drifted from the ceiling. A voice came from above us. Nathaniel's voice. Elias. I nearly lost my mind hearing it. Then fingers punched through the wooden roof. Green fingers. Long. Rotting. More hands burst through afterward, dead soldiers clawing downward into the cabin. Men fired upward screaming. The ceiling collapsed. Bodies fell among us. The room became slaughter. I stabbed one corpse through the eye with my bayonet while another tore Sergeant Wilkes open from throat to stomach. Blood sprayed across the walls. The green man stood calmly inside the collapsing cabin watching us all. Not attacking. Watching. His black eyes fixed only on me. "You hear them," he said softly. Behind him stood Nathaniel. Smiling wider than any human mouth should smile. "You left me," Nathaniel whispered. I stumbled backward. "No. You ran." His dead fingers reached toward me. And suddenly I remembered. Not the battle. Before the battle. Nathaniel wounded earlier in the woods. Me hearing him call for help. Me hiding instead because Confederates were nearby. Leaving him there alone. The guilt hit me harder than any bullet. The green man stepped closer. "This hill feeds on cowards." The walls shook violently. Outside, the dead overwhelmed soldiers across the ridge. Entire regiments vanished beneath the tide of corpses. Then the green man touched my forehead. And everything changed. I saw every death that had happened on that hill. Not just ours. Every death. Cherokee slaughtered decades earlier. Settlers murdering families. Children freezing during winter marches. Thousands upon thousands of souls buried beneath the soil. The hill was alive. Fed by death. And the green man was its keeper. When I awoke, dawn had come. The battlefield was silent. Smoke drifted over endless bodies. No walking dead. No green man. Just corpses. Union forces had retreated during the night. The battle was over. Survivors wandered like ghosts among the dead. Nobody spoke about what happened. Nobody dared. Years later, newspapers called Chickamauga one of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. They wrote about bravery, strategy, heroism. They never wrote about the dead rising on Snodgrass Hill. Maybe they forgot. Or maybe the hill made them forget. But I remember. Because every September 20th, I hear scratching outside my window. And every year, Nathaniel stands a little closer in the dark. Smiling with that ruined throat. Waiting. Tonight marks 28 years since the battle. The scratching has finally reached my bedroom door. And just now, I heard another voice outside with him. A deep voice. Calm. Patient. The hill remembers. God forgive me. The handle is turning.